When we think of being dedicated, in holiness, godliness, it comes down to constantly being vigilant concerning what the mind is preoccupied with. Are you viewing everything from the point of view of your relationship to your Heavenly Father? If you are, then you correct all the time that propensity to be preoccupied with, not being vigilant, and the mind just taking you on to whatever it last associated with, whatever it was last thinking. And you find you're wandering through the past, or some fantasy, or some analysis that is not uplifting, that is not of whatsoever is good and lovely. Of what is not, in fact, of fullness of life, life eternal. In other words, we are constantly victim of our own lack of dedication to holiness. And holiness is our relationship with our Heavenly Dad. That is everything to us. And the rest is not fullness of life at all. Not life eternal. I mean, it's very simple in this sense. If I'm chatting to someone, am I aware of God in the conversation? Am I aware of noble purpose? That God loves this person and myself? And am I conducting the conversation and my responses to what the other person is talking about? Am I conducting them appropriately within that awareness of God? Or do I lose it for great stretches of the time and reap accordingly? You see, we think of being obsessional as really troublesome. And that's because what we're obsessional about is typically something that's ungodly. But if it's an obsession with fullness of life in our relationship with God, well, it's wonderful. It's the path to life eternal. Perhaps it comes with practice. Perhaps it comes with habit, in other words. That you build a character in yourself that always has this propensity to come back to to your awareness of the presence of God. Your life eternal turns on this. If you think of the Eastern thing of meditation, even if you're a Buddhist, I'll say even, but you're to bring your mind back to the focus of your meditation. I mean, they may be meditating on emptiness, which is, in my view, a disaster, but every time the mind wanders down some other avenue, they bring it back, you see. One-pointedness of the mind in meditation is the goal, you see. Well, we do the same, except we're doing it not to any goal or conception other than our relationship to God. The primacy of this in all things at all times. Simply that. I mean, we're not sitting cross-legged and cross-eyed, I mean, we're just living, but all our thoughts are in relation to our Heavenly Dad. Try it and see. Taste and see. If you benefit from such, you'll know the way to go. Bless you. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Well, you might ask, is this feasible? Yeah, when you fall in love, that's exactly what happens. We're obsessed with our beloved. Everything we do is in relation to the importance of them in your life. And such preoccupation, such one-pointedness may dominate for not just months, but several years. And perhaps we have perhaps a fanciful view, but we have the hope that you're going to keep this up all your life. And that's the very foundation of being faithful and true. The foundation of the family and the whole creative setting in which new life, your children, are to develop. That's wonderful. But there's an even higher way that this can contribute to. It gives you a model, an understanding of how you can choose to be with God. To worship God, in fact. And I mean in spirit and in truth now. To be in love with God in a sense. Not in the earthly sense of dominance of any other person other than the person of God. But what that implies when you think about it is we're focused on utterly a personhood that's loving and kind and creative, God of life, God of the living, God of eternity, God of love, wisdom, compassion, understanding, hope, joy, peace. You know the list. We're dedicated to a personification of perfection, that by definition is best. That's what we mean by perfection in an overall sense. There's no question but that that's the way to go. It's what we mean by God. Personifies all that we value. What we value is what we feel to be perfect. And if you feel that, this perfection is not to be a personification of such, but some impersonal value system, if you like, well, okay, then that is what you must take as your object now of dedication. And trust that it bring you to the truth. It's much easier, given our experience of interpersonal relationships. It's much easier if you do it in relation to God. And of course, in particular, a God that personifies what you value. Your imagination as to what you see as the possible best of humanity. You don't want to be dedicated to an alien God. I mean, it won't grab you as something that you can love and be devoted to, because if it's alien, by definition, it's not of you, not of your values. How could you love it with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength? And as regards, well, how can I trust in the personification of my own values? Well, you're trusting in your own values already. And you can easily imagine what the personification of such is. Your view of what a super being might be, that you can very definitely relate to wonderfully, because such personifies what you value. It's not a problem. On the contrary, it's the easiest way and the most effective, and has been practiced for thousands of years with more or less success. Because we are children, by which I mean not in a contemptuous way, but in the sense that we don't get things right. We are wrestling with uncertainty, not knowing, hoping. And your hopes are very good and positive if your mind is constantly preoccupied with whatsoever is good and lovely. And of course, in relation to your view of your God. This is the way to go. Quite simply, this is the way to go. And in some sense, the Jesus story is modelling this, isn't it? We have what the world must present as a fantastic, imaginary prototype of a perfect being, and how such life might be in the setting in which it was written, which was of 2,000 years ago. That's been historized, adapted, changed, seen from different views in the time between whenever it was written and now. But it's a very good story. Not perfect, not to be worshipped, of course, but very helpful. And many have found it an incredible blessing and have become, well, quite saintly as a consequence. Depending on whether they more or less, perhaps, have followed such a way. It's not meant to be perfect. It doesn't have to be a perfect story. It only has to be sufficient. And perhaps there are other stories that are as sufficient. And it would be wise not to simply disregard such, other religions as in some sense inferior to one's own. Because we don't know. But it may well help you in fashioning your view of God and lead you the more efficiently to fullness of life, here and now, and life eternal in a world to come. Bless you. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.